Oh damn, everybody! You naming yourself something, Deuce?
No, just that's how much I got to say about this movie.
Okay.
Will, you said your refrigerator is gas powered?
Yeah,
No, it ran out of gas.
Ran out of gas.
I get it, Dion, but once you realize he just meant that it's dead because it just
there's no more Freon. The gas is Freon. There's no more Freon pumping out of it, so it's done. Yeah, once those happen, the can't use it no more.
You still got your warranty.
Yeah. Well, it belonged to the apartment, so they just.
Good.
I just know the Wills and Dion's head thinking like, wait, it's powered by gas? Like,
maybe talking about his stove. He said refrigerator.
Yo, that is. I do have a gas stove though.
Good point.
Yeah,
Not you got to shut the fuck up in the background though. That clickety clack. However,
yeah, they're bringing a new one.
Man, you come straight out of a coma.
we talking about the Flash, and I'm starting this episode, Will, just because I have to tell the people what's up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the movie The Flash, starring Ezra Miller, who is a them, they, she, I believe. And then you got Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck. This movie is the only movie that I've been waiting on since the Snyder Cut. All right. This still represents Zack Snyder's Snyderverse. This is the last film, actually, the second to last film in the end of the Snyderverse. The final movie will be Aquaman 2. However, in this film, Ezra Miller, it was supposed to come out 2 years ago, and it did not. Huh?
Pun intended.
Pun intended. It's supposed to come out 2 years ago, but it did not because of Ezra Miller's off-screen shenanigans and a couple of reshoots and a couple of different head changes at DC Comics and Warner Brothers for the DC leg of the company. Now, the movie comes out. Before we even get into this movie fully, I'm going to tell you something that nobody's talking about, and that is Jamie Lannister cameo in the movie. Now, if you've been paying attention, Jamie Lannister has been fan cast as Reverse Flash for the past 5 years, and we all want to see it. And in this movie, we saw him. If you didn't pick him out, he was the guy who Barry stole the hot dog from in the beginning of the movie.
Oh, okay. I missed that. I totally.
The first he got, because he stole food twice. The first was the hot dog, and the second was the hot dog at the end of the movie with the in front of the courtroom. So we saw Jamie Lannister. The director was at the end. Andy was the cameo at the end. The first cameo at nighttime eating a hot dog was Jamie Lannister, aka fan cast of the Reverse Flash. A successful fan cast has not been pulled off until we saw my man from Fantastic Four in the Doctor Strange 2 movie. Yeah. Now we can begin. Whatever y'all want to talk about. Nobody's talking about it.
That's actually a solid Easter egg. Like, I definitely missed that because, like, the opening of a movie is supposed to be that opening like scene that shows you like either the character flexing their powers or is like foreshadowing the character and their powers. And bro, outside of Batman in that opening scene, Barry's his antics and everything that he did was so fucking corny to me. I hated every bit of that opening scene. Oh my God. The baby shower was corny as hell.
What?
Like, it's just I did not like it at all.
Wait, baby shower? You talking about the babies falling?
Yeah, that's what he called it. He called it a baby shower. See, y'all missed the pun. He called it the baby shower. Alfred
said that it's a baby shower.
Yeah.
Got it.
It was corny as shit to me. I hated that. Like the Batman scenes, Batman was getting off. And I mean, I said, so y'all know where I'm at with this movie as we go. The movie's called The Flash, and the worst part about the movie to me was everything with the Flash. I was
you're on that narcotic.
Everything else except Barry Allen, Ezra Miller, all that shit. I hated it all. So this is the energy I'm giving y'all this whole episode.
Here's the question I gotta ask though: do we not realize the Flash is corny?
No, he's not.
He is. No, hold on. In most Flash.
The Flash in every iteration of the Flash, does he has quips? Yes. He's taken serious, but he is trying to be like, he's trying to be the ladies' man, but he's not corny to the point where he's the butt of the jokes. He's not corny to the point where he's considered the pickup man or the garbage man for the Justice League. And I think the issue that I have with this Flash is that they wanted to make this Flash what Tom Holland Spider-Man is to the MCU. There's so many younger characters that deserve that role that Barry Allen shouldn't have been that. They shouldn't have made a younger Barry Allen to everybody else's. And that's what I hate about it.
So can I ask this then? What version of Barry Allen would you have preferred to tell this story? Like, where did Barry Allen need to be at in his like timeline as the Flash?
So again, I'm indifferent because I never liked this iteration of the Flash in general. This whole from Justice League to now, I never liked how Ezra Miller portrayed Barry Allen in the Flash. That's always been my issue. Nothing against his acting,
because I'm about to kill this nigga
for this role.
I'm sending a hit out to Milwaukee as he was talking. It's about to be a knock on your door in 2 seconds.
Hey, I've been vocal about this everywhere.
Hold on, before you say that, CT, let me tell you what you're vocal about. Who's this?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down. And when you look at that list, what's all on that list? Grant Gustin and animation. You know why? Ezra Miller is trash.
The Flash, y'all. I want to tell you about how great
I love the Flash. So here's the thing: I love the Flash. The Flash is my second favorite character in DC.
Wait a second.
Barry Allen.
Hold on. Can we pause everything though? Can we pause everything though? Because I remember last episode, somebody really got on us about our mics and then got the audacity to come in here today and sound like you in a church theater. And if you think I was not going to pass that up after what you just did, what the fuck are you?
My cord is not the thing to hook up my laptop.
You ain't got your dongle? You don't have your dongle? Ain't that what they call?
You in your studio. Is there not another mic that you can hook up to your? So if I booked the studio today for doing this show for where you are.
I'm not even gonna hold you. This is a brand new laptop. I know y'all been with my laptop. So I'm talking like a week old. So
congratulations, Flex.
I didn't know it had the contraption to hook up to it. So
here's the thing. We got to tell the entire story because what Dion just did is something that I applaud. However, the audience needs to know the tidbit of information. Our own Young Deuces is the voice of Watch Mojo. Actually, the first black man in history to be a part of Watch Mojo, let alone the voice of Watch Mojo, doing this countdown of the Flash's greatest moment, which is incredible irony for this episode. Beyond that, I will give some validity to what Young Deuces said a while ago, which was that this version of Barry Allen doing the quips, Flash has never been corny. I will give you that. He's never been corny. However, this iteration of Barry Allen, since he's been seen in what was his first appearance? Was his first appearance Justice League or was it?
Oh, it may have been because remember that Easter egg where
Bruce but he didn't talk. He didn't talk in
like
Batman
Suicide
for Superman.
Squad. Suicide Squad was kind of like his first appearance, I think.
No. Justice League came because they did show Flash. That was his first, but that was even a quick shot when they showed him taking down Captain Boomerang. He didn't talk. However, our first seeing him in Justice League, this iteration of Barry Allen was extremely close to Wally West. Extremely. And when you see the Justice League cartoon, Justice League Unlimited, this was more like Wally than it was Barry Allen, because even me as a Flash fan, Flash has always been my number 3. So it was Batman, Superman, Flash, then John Stewart's Green Lantern, then Static Shock. So when you look at all of these versions of the Flash, the Barry Allen from the television show caught me off guard because I was so used to Michael Rosenbaum voicing the Flash, which, first of all, round of applause for Michael Rosenbaum, dude. One of the greatest, if not the greatest portrayal of Wally West we've seen, we've been even privy to. Now, with that said, this version of Barry Allen was, yes, more cartoony, more silly, more neurotic, all of those things. And I will give you that he's been that. With the opposition, young Deuces, this movie, this script was incredible with everything that they had to cut out because of the new direction that DC is going. With Gunn a part of the helm for the things that they cut out, which I can't wait until they drop the director's cut. And I hope they drop everything that they cut out because they cut out so much. But this movie was phenomenal. The Flash got so much to show in this movie, but you got to remember, even though it's a part of the Snyderverse, we're looking at this as the Flash's origin story, which it was not. This was just a movie about the Flash and Flashpoint. So this was to reset the universe. This was not a solo film. So by them showing what they showed us with the Flash, we got a chance to see him knowing everything with his powers, the phasing, the super speed. The only thing he learned in this movie was that he could go back in time. Right. So they also reconstructed him because he lost his powers and now had to teach his past self how to use all the powers that he's come along to learn. Even with the suit, he's like, look, you're gonna overheat, you got to distribute this electricity differently. This is stuff that he's learned from being a hero for years. So this movie was phenomenal. Before we even get to the guest stars in the film, from a Flash perspective, best work. It was way better than the TV show. I promise you that.
So here's my rebuttal to that, because I agree with you, and I think my issue is the portrayal versus the technicality of it, right? Because from an acting standpoint, as a fan of acting and script writing and everything, like I said, I can acknowledge everything that you said. You know, as an actor, what Ezra Miller had to do, practically having to act as one character and act as another character, because I can't say both Barrys did feel like different versions of Barry, right?
Absolutely.
So I acknowledge that. And again, like you said, with the storytelling, with them script rewriting, like what they had with them, I can acknowledge that. Again, but it comes down to, I really do not like this portrayal of Barry. So like exactly what you said is this from the get-go, even when he was in Justice League and Batman versus Superman, when I first saw this Ezra Miller's version of it, I said, I don't like this portrayal of Barry. And so because of that, I was already against it. So then, you know, when all the critics were saying, yo, this is the best movie, like I was going in expecting for me to be proven wrong. That's what and so when I wasn't proven wrong, I really doubled down on it. Like, I don't see what everybody was seeing in this film.
So take out the portrayal, because that's your number one gripe. Your portrayal is a character choice. If you take out the character choice that you don't like of his Barry Allen, and we just look at this film and we look at the scenes and we look at the direction and we look at the special effects and we look at everything that was tied in, you're saying that you didn't like this movie.
Because the two key elements of it, outside of like the portrayal that I don't like and everything, is the ending of this movie. I don't want to jump too ahead, but I feel like the lesson wasn't learned 100%. And the second thing is that everybody else's story, I was way more invested in. For this to be the Flash movie, you should not be third or fourth that I'm interested in. And so because of those, like I can't like this movie.
How now, without, of course, we're going to get to the ending at some point, but without giving away the ending, how can you say he didn't learn his lesson when there was no. At the end of the film, before the courthouse, he literally learned his lesson.
No, because the whole movie started off
on the top shelf.
Yeah.
Yes, he did not interact. He did not change the interactions to where his mother would be killed. Or not, to be saved. He moved the cans, which meant that he knew. This is because I literally looked at it again last night so I could be ready for today.
Right.
He moved the cans. The original time he went back in time, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. The original time he went back in time, he wanted to give his mother the extra can of tomatoes so she did not die. Now, by her doing that, she got a chance to live this full life in this timeline. However, it created an inevitable point. Inevitable point. This inevitable point means that although she didn't die, now the point is going to be this universe dying, right?
Yeah.
Him interacting with his mother, giving her the can, changed everything, destroyed that universe. By him going back the second time, which I'm only going from the can of tomatoes in the grocery store to the very end, him going back the second time, he said, damn, I got to take this can of tomatoes out of her basket because I've accepted that she has to die.
True.
However, I know that Bruce Wayne can give me the technology that exists in my present day, that came in my present day, to help the camera angle show my father's innocence. That had no effect on the past 20 years.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's the same level of impact, but if the whole movie is the lesson of don't go back in time and messing with shit, even if that's small, it's like you went back in time and you still meddling with shit.
He still didn't learn his lesson because he still changed something, and we don't know what. And we saw what the ripple effects was of him moving the can, which is what we saw at the end.
Right. Now, if we go, let's go through the movie before we, because we got to tell the movie before we keep jumping around. Barry Allen is torn up about his father being in prison. He gets a video piece of evidence of his father being in the grocery store that fateful day of his mother dying to try and prove his father's innocence, but the security video is extremely laggy and it's choppy and there's no way to prove his innocence. Barry Allen is shown this evidence while having, I can't even talk about that relationship with this Iris West in this film. Yeah. And while they're having a conversation, Barry then gets it in his head. Wait a minute. I could go back, because he accidentally went back in time a day. Yeah, and by him going back in time a day, go ahead, Deuces.
I was gonna say, because I don't want to before you go past that part.
Yeah.
The relationship between him and his dad, I thought that they did that masterfully. Yes. I did like that relationship. It felt like what I was used to. And even with the way, also prior to that, when he was I always like how DC has shown, like, when fast people go across state lines and country lines. They did that in Man of Steel, the way that they did that in The Flash with him running, and how they I thought that the way that they did those transitions, I did like those a lot.
I'm glad you gave us some props. Looking at that, the relationship, and I want y'all to notice something as Deuces talks about this movie for the rest of this episode. You are relating your feelings from the TV show to the film, and you're comparing as opposed to taking it as what it is, which I understand. The first 3 seasons of The Flash were the greatest, and we all fell in love with Grant Gustin's portrayal for those couple of seasons. And for all intents and purposes, he's been the Flash for the past decade. Yeah. And it's very hard to see somebody else in that role, just like we saw Tom Welling as Clark Kent, and then we saw Brandon Routh as Clark Kent. And you're like, but by the time Henry Cavill came around, Smallville had been off the air for a couple of years. And you're like, you know what? If I have to accept this, I will. Whereas now, only a month ago, we just said goodbye to Grant Gustin. So we're all attached. And that's another reason that he's a completely different Flash a completely different Barry Allen than the one that we've seen for the past decade, which is understandable. But in this film, I did not have any comparisons except one. And that was the portrayal of Iris West. And and this is another reason I want to see the director's cut, because I feel that there had to have been some better scenes for the young lady who played Iris West in this film, because she did not come across as a love interest. She didn't come across as genuinely having chemistry with Ezra. She didn't come across as an important character whatsoever. And a lot of her dialogue seemed rushed. It seemed like they used the first takes of everybody's day when they had Iris on the movie.
You know what? Also, too, it seemed like the scene she had was what they shot from the Justice League, and then they transferred it over here. That's what it more felt like.
Except him saving her.
Yeah, except that part. And it was just like, but that's what it felt like when seeing her talk. It felt like the saving part was right there. And then it was like, oh, okay. After that, she saw Barry and then started wanting to have this conversation. I feel like y'all just kind of broke them pieces up and gave that to us for her. Yeah. Because y'all didn't want us to fully focus on the Iris thing. But you could have did better with some of her scenes to establish, like, hey, this is this person's love interest, not just some funky, round the way reporter that he used to go to night with. Yeah, that he just happened to be asking about his story. And
it was too forced. That her appearance in this movie, and I wanted to see her portrayal because I wanted to say, oh man, all right, is Candace really the best Iris? Let's see what happens. And in this movie felt like, first of all, it's the greatest movie that we've had since the Snyder Cut, and before the Snyder Cut, it's the best movie since Man of Steel. But this movie felt as though if you didn't watch every single piece of video from the Snyderverse, you weren't going to be caught up. Now, there were some people in the theater that had not seen any Snyder stuff and was like, oh, this is amazing. And I agree. But when it comes to Iris West, they shoehorned her a lot.
I got a question. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Iris saving scene, y'all did that was just the Snyder one. That wasn't the original cut. That was the Snyder cut that only had that saving part, right?
Well, the Snyder cut, I believe the Snyder cut had it. However, what I'm talking about, the saving scene, was in the trailer for Justice League.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So when they showed it in the trailer, you're like, oh, great. And then when the movie came out, they never showed that scene. As a matter of fact, Iris was cut out of that as well.
Yeah.
So she's been a victim of it.
You see the full extended version of it.
Yeah. So it's like you're expecting us to have seen the Snyder cut to be able to care about her in this movie, and you're expecting us also to have watched the television show to see who Iris is to Barry, for us to be like, oh, here she is, as opposed to giving us the origin of why he likes her, why she likes him, what's been their adversity. Because the true story of Iris West and Barry Allen from the 50s is that they have this love that's almost like love at first sight. But you can't do that in a modern age movie nowadays when you've had a TV show showing that and people don't know the original story.
But even to your point too, like how you said, that's where they missed it, because you didn't even give us that. Like, even you try to throw like, yo, they went to college together, and it's like, that's not what this feel like. Like, they feel like they don't know each other.
Yes.
Like, this is their first time really meeting,
and she's hella forward if that's their first time.
Yeah, like, you came to this dude's house and shit.
How you know where you live, baby girl?
Right.
This is wild.
Like, yo, this version part is a lot. But then too, just as you're saying, like, you know, we'll get to that. Just that cleared up a little bit more once he got back to his different point in time with this other Barry and stuff. But I'll say that when we get to that, because it also ties into what y'all said in the beginning part too. So just go ahead and keep like guiding us through the movie.
Yeah, and they definitely did not need the love interest at all, because not at one point during the movie did he say, I got to get back to Iris. He just kept saying, I got to get back to my timeline, as opposed to, like, if you'd have told me, oh man, I got to get back because I got a date in my timeline too, then it would have made sense, because, like, all right, he got to fix this so he could get back to his Iris. But none of that was set up.
What I think they was trying to pull off, and again, because they didn't set it up, it didn't hit. Younger Barry, I think that was like older Barry, his purpose of wanting to save this timeline outside of just wanting to save people, I believe that they was trying to pull off like, oh shit, in this world, Iris and Barry actually get together, they go on a date, so I need to preserve this. And I feel like you said, being that they did not set it up, that's why it didn't pay off. I think that's what they're attempting to do.
Well, to your point though, I think they threw a little, like, into CTs, they threw a little more too much trust into it. Like, I think what it was showing the opportunity missed. So the version we know didn't ask her out, and we see how that turns out, to where it's now this whole they don't really know each other, but they know each other and stuff. And it's like, okay, this is what happens when you don't shoot your shot, as opposed to the younger Barry that shot his shot, and it's going to show us what that whole Iris love connection is. But to CT's point, if I don't know who Iris is, I don't know. I did not know that's what you were aiming for.
And even more so, when you look at that and you see that kind of relationship, this movie was about, and this is fine, and this is why the movie should have came out sooner. This movie should have came out last month, and it would have made 200 million easily. And I'm gonna tell you why. This movie was the focus, and this is a root of Barry Allen, the focus on the love between a son and his mother.
Yep.
Right. So if you'd have dropped this on Mother's Day, 200 million easily, because you got to change that narrative. Don't tell me you're changing this. Don't tell me you're doing this movie because, oh, it's about the multiverse, and multiverse is big right now. Marvel, DC. No, if you tell me this is about a boy who loves his mother, and I cried at the end of the movie, teared because of what I saw. If you show that, you're going to win, as opposed to trying to shoehorn this love story that is not going to pay off at any point. So if you tell me about his mother, all right, so he goes back in time because, for those of you guys who don't know, the Flash became, go ahead.
Hold on, but because I know you're going forward in the story, you know what they could have done of that instead of showing Iris? That cameo could have been Lois Lane.
Why?
Lois Lane could have been covering that story and just asking him about it, because that's more of what they did with Iris, was ask him about his father and show us the pinpoint.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
The
saying.
journalism aspect.
Yeah, we just or if two just a random rinky-dink journalist. It didn't need to be Iris.
I would have preferred a random journalist. I'm gonna tell you why I don't. I'm glad it wasn't Lois Lane. It's because one, the Lois Lane of the Snyderverse was trash.
Yeah,
she was not Lois Lane. The greatest Lois Lane has always been and will always be Erica Durance until they book Miss Maisel to play Lois Lane. Now,
second is Terry Hatcher. Okay,
Terry Hatcher is definitely a number 2.
Definitely.
But you know who is the last place? Margot Kidder. And I don't know what the fuck they were thinking in the 70s to have cast Margot Smoker voice Kidder as
and
Lois
Lane. Put heavy
Yo.
emphasis on a lot of Supermen in here. Like it would have definitely took away
so much. And you got to remember, outside of her being a bad Lois Lane in the Snyderverse, that would have been still showing Cavill and that Lois Lane, which is what they're trying to get rid of for the new movie coming in 2 years. So he goes back in time to try to save his mother by changing the one detail, which is, oh, you were missing a can of tomato sauce. Let me get an extra can. And by him doing that, he's now created a separate timeline where his mother lived, and he's had a full life with both of his parents, and his dad did not get arrested. But if you go ahead,
I have to ask something too, because you say you just saw it. So
yeah, I saw it again last night.
There's a detail I need if you could clear this up for me.
Yeah.
What can did she tell him to get?
A green can.
Okay, so it wasn't a red can.
It was not a red can. I looked at that each time.
Yeah,
I was like, why does he keep why if they're gonna write that into the script, why is there not a green can of tomato sauce? They keep being these fucking red cans.
Wrong. At first I thought he got it wrong, and I'm like, oh, that may have something to do with it because he got the wrong color can. But I'm like, okay, well, maybe I heard the wrong color.
That was bad continuity. Because they wrote that shit in the script.
He got the wrong can when he grabbed it.
I'm like, why put so much emphasis on this can and you grabbing the wrong can? I felt you with the same thing. So, for those of you guys who don't know the history of the Flash, he was a little boy, extremely close to his mother in every single version of the Flash. And his mother, they've changed the reasons of why she's been murdered, but his mother's always murdered, whether it be. This is the first time I've ever seen her cooking something, and the husband was supposed to go to the store and get something to help her cook. He's out of the house. He comes back in time to where it's plausible enough to believe that the father killed the mother, and the father goes to prison, and they've been trying to prove his innocence for 20 something years. Barry he becomes a CSI, not a CSI, a forensic scientist to try to help reverse cases of people who did not really look at DNA evidence or be able to find more stuff from a scene, because he's always motivated to help get his father out of prison unsuccessfully, even as he becomes the Flash. In other iterations, Barry's father was not around, and Barry and his mother were just like going around hanging out, and then some man either burglarized or terrorized the house and kills his mother. This sends him down a path similar to Batman, except he can't do anything about it. And while he is a forensic scientist working in his lab late at night, a rainy day, a lightning bolt comes through his lab and strikes him by lightning. In other versions of the Flash, that lightning bolt is the Flash from future timelines going back to give himself the power. So it's all a full circle. In this movie, Barry's father goes to get the tomato sauce. He comes back home just at enough time for the reverse Flash, who was not seen on camera, to kill Barry's mother. Barry sees his father over his mother as there's a knife in her chest. Barry's father tries to get the knife out, so his fingerprints are on a knife. Who's going to believe that he didn't do this? The only witness is dead. And Barry's father goes to prison for life. Barry grows up, becomes this forensic scientist, blah, blah, blah. What happened in this movie was Barry relives the memory of the day his mother died, and he's already the Flash. Through his pain and suffering, he starts to run to try and get his mind off of it, but in his stupor, he runs too fast And in him running too fast, he goes back in time 24 hours. He goes back in time 24 hours, notices that he can now go back in time, tells his only friend, which is Bruce Wayne. And in this timeline, that Bruce Wayne is Ben Affleck. And he tells Ben Affleck that he can go back in time, and he wants to go back because this time he could save his mother and he could save Bruce's parents. Bruce warns him not to do it because our scars are what make us who we are.
Which is I love that line so much. Like that should have been the promo tag. You could do so much with that tag. Like, especially with the focus on like mental health now and everything.
Oh, true.
Like, there is so much they could have given with that tag. But wait, CT, I wanted to know for you, being a Barry Allen fan as well. And I know
I'm more of a Wally West guy, but I definitely love Barry Allen.
Oh yeah, but I know it's more so the actress. But did Nora Allen's accent throw you off?
Here's the thing: did not expect him to make the Flash half Mexican. Let's just start there.
Okay. I'm glad we stopped there. I was like, we got some stuff we got to bring back.
I'll say, my man, Spanish. Now, here's the first of all, shout out to my Latinos and all around the world. You know, I got nothing but love for y'all.
Right?
That's another thing. Like, here's the thing, bro. If you're gonna sell a movie, first of all, if you don't know anything about minorities, Hollywood execs, I need you to know this. Don't nobody support a movie like Black people and Latinos. Know that, number one.
Know it.
If you would have advertised that this version of the Flash was white and Mexican, he might have been all Mexican because it's the way his daddy looked at the beginning of the movie. Right. Yeah, curly hair.
And the perfect scene you could have had as a clip was them dancing with each other.
My God. In the kitchen.
Have shown that, because like I was very taken back when I saw she was Hispanic. I was like, I'm not mad at this.
Yeah.
I wasn't mad either.
I wasn't mad. It just took me aback. I was like, and then my brother was like, my brother was like, is this origin like that? I was like, I don't think so. I was like, his name is Barry Allen from Central City.
Yeah.
I was like,
not Barito.
Bartholomew.
Bartholomew.
But to CT's point though, that's one of those things you should have definitely promoted out because of the fact. And you know, too, I know it's a very small change, but it is something that was like, wow,
it's major.
I like it. It was a good major kind of change.
Listen, man, they're showing trailers for the Blue Beetle, and everybody in the world knows. And if you don't know, I'm telling you right now, Jaime Reyes is the first Latino superhero in the DC universe. So if you would have shown, and let me tell you something, Latinos all around the world already ready for Blue Beetle. They probably bought the goddamn tickets. So if you telling me the Flash, who is one of the most famous superheroes on the planet, if you were making him Latino and you did not tell the world, shame on your marketing department, because that's a bonus $400 million that you just did not get because you could have told people.
Himself.
Huh?
Because of the writer's strike, we ain't seen Ezra Miller promote one time.
Well, Ezra Miller spoke
He spoke
at the premiere, and he only said, I want to thank DC and Warner Brothers.
Nobody's interviewing him
for their patience.
Nah, you can't say shit.
Like,
David said that's the only premiere he could go to. He couldn't go to nothing else.
Yeah.
But
I bet you that whatever what he said, that went through so many hands, so many people. Like, I just double check, make sure that nothing can come back around.
Yeah.
Nothing can turn around on us.
And that's unfortunate because it's like that. If nothing else, that goes to show you the damage that can be done when the star of a film can't promote it.
Yeah,
because you know, Michael Keaton went around trying to promote, but at the same time, he can't say everything about this movie. The only person who could have promoted this movie is the person who plays the hero and the villain. Michael Shannon couldn't say nothing. He was there for 2 minutes.
Who promoted this movie? Who promoted it?
Michael Keaton was the only person that I saw.
Michael Keaton.
It was good to be Batman again.
It was
and that's all he, and again too, that's all he really was supposed to do, because it's your ending. Like, if you know the story, we'll get into like, you know, further into the movie, but like for you, this is your, like, I'm just saying, I was glad to be back here, do my cameo, I'm good. To CT's point, like, you only have the Flash who can promote this like that. You don't have a side character. The only other person is Supergirl, and don't nobody know who the fuck she is. So
she making her debut in this movie.
Yeah, you're not gonna get as much pull with that because we don't know if this is her first and last appearance.
We got a lot to talk about. Let me get through the rest of the movie. We got a lot to talk about. Who the fuck? Brody. Why is Brody's internet never together?
It's the same footage that we saw Barry Allen's dad on. That's the same type of internet that Brody uses.
That is a fact, and you petty as fuck for making us listen to that because I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna say something nice about Brody. What'd you say, Dion?
Y'all done changed me. Listen here, I gotta be quick with it. Yeah.
What I'm about to say is, so what's worse because of the Flash and the writer's strike? Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers, none of these shows can promote any actors to come on shows because all these people are writers. So all these shows
couldn't premiere trailers before it be like as a special exclusive either.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Nobody has promoted shows. They only promote like I haven't seen any actor promote like on a podcast.
Only one was Supergirl, like the press junket scene, like comic book, IGN. It was her doing most of the interviews.
And you know what's wild? You could remove her from the entire movie. That movie wouldn't change at all.
It wouldn't. It would not have. It would not have.
You know what? The promo that they actually like, the only promo that I saw was literally it was critics. It was other directors saying like this is the greatest movie. Like I didn't. It was just outside people bigging it up, but nobody involved with the film. That is crazy.
So when you so where did I leave off? He goes back in time. He changes things. His mother's still alive. He comes in contact. First of all, how old was the Barry Allen that we know that went back in time?
I'm assuming 17 because wasn't he a freshman?
No, not the young one. The one that went
the
back
older one.
The older one. Ooh.
They never said because we don't know how old Barry is by the events after Justice League.
He got to be mid-20s or late 20s if you went to forensic science because that's at least a 4-year bid.
Well, here's the thing. The Barry Allen that I know, Barry Allen is supposed to be 27 years old after he gets hit by lightning and all of that stuff. But the way that I'm sorry, he's 27 when he becomes the Flash. In this film, he goes back and he runs into his 18-year-old self. Go ahead.
He was 26 in Justice League, so they're assuming that he's around his 30s in this movie.
Impossible. If he was 26 in Justice League, don't look at real lifetime. Look at the storyline time.
Well, let's see. This is
you get what I'm saying?
Movie. This
like Justice League Snyderverse was 20. They came out in 2017, right? Or 2018. When did Justice League come out?
Okay, hold on. Because now they're giving me conflicting one. Because it says, let's see.
Well, give me the year and I'll tell you the truth.
Oh, the movie that Justice League came out?
Yeah, not Snyderverse. I mean, not the Snyder Cut, the Justice League movie.
I think 2017.
Yeah, 2017.
Okay. If Justice League came out in 2017, The Flash was supposed to come out in 2019. They start pushing things back. So it was supposed to be 2 years after the events of Justice League. Then that meant that Barry was supposed to be 29 years old. So if he's 29 years old, then almost 30 is fine. So that meant that he went back 12 years to talk to his younger self. So he goes back to talk to the 18-year-old Barry Allen, not expecting to see himself because he thought that he was going to be in his timeline. But what happened while he was inside of the Speed Force going back in time, he was knocked out by a mysterious villain. The mysterious villain. Yeah.
Hey, the way he came, I was like, hey, that nigga about to knock him out.
Yo, we also are coming, except the Flash. How the fuck are you a hero and don't see a punch coming? So Barry gets knocked into this alternate timeline where he runs into 18-year-old him, and he realizes that is the day that he gets hit by lightning. He has to get his younger self to the police station so he can get hit by lightning and become the Flash on his timeline. While him saving the details, while he is preparing his younger self to get hit by lightning, he has a lightning bolt go through himself to his younger self, which causes him to lose his powers. So 30-year-old Barry loses his own powers and younger Barry gets his powers. And he loses his tooth. With this happening, now older Barry must train younger Barry on how to become the Flash that he's come to be already. Except younger Barry is miles ahead of older Barry with everything he's learned to do as the Flash. Yeah. And with that, that's a huge consequence because younger Barry did not have to work at all to understand his powers. And when people don't work, this is a message in life. When you don't work to earn things, you don't appreciate them. And when you don't appreciate them, you throw caution to the wind. And when you throw caution to the wind, things become extremely dangerous. I digress.
CT with the sermon. I hear you,
With
bro.
the sermon. I'm out here. You understand me? Amen. Amen. So what ends up happening is because of this alternate timeline, we learn once both Barrys end up going to Bruce Wayne, who is now Michael Keaton in this timeline, which is our Michael Keaton from 1989. He learns that time is not linear. And every time you mess with time, it does not create a separate timeline. It creates spaghetti.
Yeah.
Spaghetti can sometimes run parallel, but a lot of times it runs concurrent, and a lot of times it's in a loop, but it's all a huge hot mess. Right? Yeah. Now, learning that this is first of all, to take a break from this, it's so interesting hearing everybody's theory on how time travel works. Like when you see Marvel do it in Endgame, how they say how time works, and then how you see in DC how this works, and then the Back to the Future, it's clear that nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about, and they're just manipulating time.
I feel like everybody's I don't know when the science community like made this decision, but it does seem like everybody is doing a good job on shitting on the rules that Back to the Future set. Like, yes. I know y'all probably seen the movie. Everybody always like, y'all always see the movie. No, it's not that.
Which, by the way, while they're in this timeline, they even make knowledge to Back to the Future. And they said, oh, like Back to the Future. Yeah, Eric Stoltz is great because in this timeline, Michael J. Fox did not play Marty McFly. You know Eric Stoltz did the trilogy.
A lot of people don't know that story, which I'm surprised that,
like, you know what, this bothers me because he didn't go that far back, man. Like, because how did the Batman change? How did Back to the Future change? Because if you went back like 60 years back, that would change like the fact that he was, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but you gotta remember time ain't linear. So whatever it changed, he changed that point in that timeline. So there's no telling what happened for it to get to him to change
years back. Bruce Wayne's origin story, he is a child. You know what I'm saying? So how a different man gets altered because of what Barry did 12 years ago. See what I'm saying?
Well, that's the reason that they explain the spaghetti. Yeah. So in your mind, you think because you go from if you in the alphabet line, let's say A to Z, you think if you go from P back to C, that A and B won't change. Right. But in actuality, you going back to C creates a separate timeline here that intersects with your timelines A and B.
Oh. So you're at C2 right
exactly. That's what they were trying to explain. So while that happened, Barry is talking to this Bruce Wayne because he realizes in this timeline there is no Wonder Woman, there is no Cyborg, because Cyborg has not become Cyborg yet. He realizes that there is no Aquaman. The only person on this planet is Batman and possibly Superman. So he tries to convince our Michael Keaton Batman to help him free Superman from the Soviets, and they go and they try to find Superman, but they instead come across Kara Zor-El, who is Supergirl. Which means that Superman came to this planet, but we don't know where he is. Hopefully, in my mind, I was like, well, maybe this is going to be Soviet Superman. Maybe this is going to be the Russians got him since Kara Zor-El is captured, right?
Wait, before you move on that too, she whipped those guards' ass. I wanted to say that. Yeah. If I was the third guard, after I saw her fling the second guard, I would have laid down my gun. Like, you know what? You got it. Like, bro, I don't see how faceless goons don't quit. I would have quit.
Faceless goons.
I would have quit so quickly, dog. She came out and beat their ass on top of that facility.
Yeah.
Like,
when you notice the guns don't work no more, that's when you leave. It's like, hey, I quit. I know I shot her.
Right. Like I know I shot her in the face, and she just looked at me like I'm done.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that. I just had to say that.
You know, they always clown Man of Steel for the amount of death that happened. Mm-hmm. Like they killed a lot of people. Granted, like they make it seem like Barry Allen saved a lot of people in that falling building. He saved the babies. But I would say at least tens of thousands.
I also didn't think you on mute, Will. Will, you on mute? You on mute, bro?
I said we know there were 10 more floors on that wing where they were.
Yeah.
Bro, didn't everybody get out?
I ain't gonna hold you. I thought that they was going to let the babies drop. I was like, yo, is DC about to take it there?
Man, they dark enough.
They going that dark? I said, yo, this is about to be a different movie.
Here's my only issue with the movie. They emphasize in Justice League how important the carb overload is for Barry Allen to eat carbs.
Mm.
And then at the third act, they were like, fuck that. That's like, that's not even important no more. Because them niggas was moving. They went back in time like 13 times. I was like,
yeah, and he did not get tired either. Like even in that fight with like Zod, like, yo, like why? And then why didn't Barry power out like that? So it was like, so did younger Barry learn like to not need that anymore?
Yeah.
Because we never seen him really get tired or sleepy when he got his powers.
Right. The only reason that didn't bother me is that in every iteration of the Flash, they always have a moment where they emphasize his metabolism. Mm-hmm. But for the long haul, whether it's animation, live action, no matter what, it's never a heavy focus. So I didn't expect that to carry on 100% because they never do that in any iteration of the Flash.
I definitely appreciated in the beginning when you thought he was planning out how to save these babies. He's like, nah. Let me get to this vending machine first.
Well, hey, they had some decent comedy moments in this movie.
Let me go and make this burrito
in this movie. And you know, I know we're at the part where he's enrolling Keaton's help and his guidance. Another issue that I had with this movie is that, bro, they had no faith in this movie. Every big moment, not every, but most of the big moments that would have got us, because you got to think, even when they introduced Keaton's Batman, like it took a while for them to reveal it. So you know that they was waiting for the reveal. And when his face showed, when his face showed, like it was a little pause, like they probably was waiting for the audience. I just felt like it was lacking.
Here's the thing. And I know y'all are getting hype as I'm telling y'all this, but I gotta finish this. We got to go back to the beginning. I'm just getting y'all through the story.
Okay.
We got to talk about the entire thing.
All right.
So after Barry finds Batman helps him track down Superman, which ends up being Kara Zor-El. They free Kara Zor-El. She gets into the sunlight, and as you guys know, Kryptonians feed off of our yellow sun. That's how they get their powers. If there is no yellow sun around, they don't have any powers. They're just as useless as human beings. She gets her powers. She is now the only force that we have to fight against Zod. All right. Zod in this timeline is about to attack because this is what happened when Barry was 18. Superman was on this planet to stop Zod and his army. But now because there's no Superman, his only hope is Kara. And now Kara is nowhere near ready to fight Zod. And what ends up happening in this final battle is we see young Barry, we see older Barry, we see Batman and Supergirl taking on Zod and his army. In this battle, without going into too much, Batman and Supergirl die in battle. The only two people left standing are young Barry and older Barry. Now, because of this, young Barry says, man, I wish we could go back in time. Barry's like, well, we can, but you're too slow. And he's like, am I? Starts running into the Speed Force. They both go back in time and try to change the scenario that just happened. Within them trying to change the scenario that just happened, they end up realizing that no matter what, this is an inevitable point, which they are both supposed to die in this timeline because this universe is supposed to not be existent. In them seeing this, young Flash, 18-year-old Flash, cannot accept this and wants to continue going back to stop any of this from happening because he feels as long as he goes back in time, he can change it. And he has all the time in the world to be able to do so. Every time he goes back in time, he has a different spike going through his body. This is the Speed Force punishing him for trying to change the timeline. And again, every time you try and change the timeline, you're ripping a hole in some universe. Because of this, they start, which we're not going to talk about right now, I'm just telling you the movie, the different universes start collapsing on top of themselves. You'll see Earth 3 collapsing with Earth 31 and so on and so forth. Because of these universes collapsing, and every time 18-year-old Flash comes back, he has a different spike through his body. Older Flash is standing there realizing the error of his ways. man, I keep going back in time to try and change things, but I keep making them worse. The only way to fix this timeline is to stop the villain that knocked me out of the time bubble in the first place. And come to find out that the villain that has been going back in time that knocked him out into the timeline to give young Barry his powers in the first place was Savitar, which Savitar is an older version of Barry Allen that messes with the timeline so much that he becomes an evil, warped, old version of himself that is intent on fixing his problems from past universes. From past timelines. And because he's done this, the only way that this can stop is if Savitar dies. Savitar feels that the only way that he can truly succeed is by killing original Barry, which is older Barry. Instead of killing original Barry, he ends up killing his younger self, which now he ceases to exist. By him ceasing to exist, the other universes are now fixed, solved, and clear. And elder Flash realizes that he has to go back in time and he has to make sure that his own mother dies so that the timeline is intact. So he goes back in time, and instead of changing the fact that his mother dies and by giving the extra can of tomato sauce, he moves the tomato sauces to another shelf so that 20 years in the future, when his father goes to prison, that the video is revealed that he was actually there and he has an alibi for not killing his mother. This fixes every single thing in the timeline. It goes back to present day, and Barry now gets the chance to see his father freed from prison, and now he is greeted by a different Bruce Wayne. It is not Michael Keaton. It is not Ben Affleck. It is, in fact, George Clooney as Bruce Wayne, and the movie ends. Now, before we start talking, there were two alternate endings. The first alternate ending was supposed to be the entire Justice League, with the exception of Cyborg, because he agreed not to do this movie. Everybody in the courthouse, and it was supposed to set up Wonder Woman 3, and it was supposed to set up Man of Steel 2, which was going to feature Kara Zor-El, Superman's younger cousin. The second version was the version that we saw, and the third version was supposed to be Michael Keaton and Supergirl, which was going to set up Michael Keaton being in Batgirl, the Batgirl TV show that was later shelved. So that's why that didn't happen. So the ending that we saw was supposed to be setting up George Clooney as the new Batman, even though we know that that is where the Snyderverse ends, and that will not be Batman from the Brave and the Bold.
Man, you come straight out of a comic.